Okay, so part two, same thing. A lot of questions.
Cool.
I think actually these are mostly comments, like just statements, not questions, but
All right.
good opportunities for us to take them in a certain direction. Okay, well, this first one is a question. It just says, does having a lawyer help you out in the process? Do they speak to you for the ALJ? Well, it's supposed to say, yeah. Do they speak in front of the ALJ in the hearing? I guess is what
Yeah.
it's supposed to say.
That is a
Which is
great question.
absolutely yes. But
Yeah,
let's,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
great question because a lot of people, some people are like, I'm not talking. I hired you to do all that. Well, that it doesn't work that way. You have to talk. But yes, I will be there at the hearing, and yes, I do a lot of talking. But the judge is going to ask questions to the star witness. And the star witness is sworn in. It's the only formal, what I consider the only formal part of a hearing that resembles any kind of other courtroom procedure. And that is you are sworn in. The judge will ask you on the phone, because most of our hearings are phone now, please raise your right hand, and he or she will swear you in. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You promise to tell the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on the penalty of perjury. They give it, some judges say, so help me God. Some say under penalty of perjury. And you get sworn in because you're the star witness. Nobody knows your life. Even if I've been involved in 2.5 years in your case, still nobody knows your life like you. And the judge is going to ask you, how far did you go in school? Who all lives in your household? How old are your kids? Do you help your kids with schoolwork? Do your kids help you with housework? A disabled person, that it usually flips like that, especially 12 and over kids are now helping you because of your disabilities. But they're going to ask these kinds of questions. When's the last time you worked? Well, in that job, what was your job title? Did you have to lift and carry? Well, how much did you have to lift and carry? Did you have to stand and walk? Oh, okay. Well, how long were you on your feet in a typical 8-hour workday?
yeah.
Did you do any sitting? All these things. Think about it. If the judges were to ask me those kinds of questions, or if I were just to stand up and start monologuing, well, Mrs. Smith is 54 years old. She's married to Johnny, her husband. Mrs. Smith has 3 kids, ages 6. That's one, it's really awkward.
Yeah.
And 2, it's not as impactful as the claimant talking. Now, when it's why you think you're disabled, you're going to say the problems that you have with your symptoms. Not so much your diagnoses. They have that in the medical records. You're going to talk about your symptoms. But I'm going to talk about the law. Well, pursuant to SSR 96-8P, my 43-year-old client could not be expected to make it through an 8-hour workday, much less a 40-hour work week because of, and the medical record at Exhibit 3F, page 29, I'm going to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to make a legal argument, stuff like that. At the end of the hearing, when they're talking to the vocational witness, and in all adult hearings, there is a vocational witness, almost all, 99%. You're not going to have to cross-examine the vocational witness after the judge has asked them some questions. I will cross-examine them. But yes, you must talk in a hearing. You're the star witness, and nobody knows you like you. You're the best person to talk about what your life is like with your disabilities. Best person. I can help you with, the law, and I can help you with cross-examining an expert witness. And I can throw you softballs too. When I ask you questions, okay, well, you told the judge that you're able to, be on your feet for, about 45 minutes at a time. Is that just 45 minutes solid, or do you have to take a break even doing that? Oh, no, Mr. Groves, there's no way I could stand 45 minutes solid. Oh, okay. Well, you said that you walk for, 20 or 30 minutes. Could you walk to your mailbox and back? I'd become short of breath, halfway there. Okay. And that's what I will do.
Yeah.
But then I'm asking you questions and you're giving me, answers, and the answers are what the judge is going to use to say, okay, this person's credible. It matches what their medical records say. And, if they're credible and it matches what the medical records say, they're likely going to prove your case.
Yeah, I mean, if the judge asks the claimant, do you have any pets? Okay, what kind of pets? Okay, you have rabbits. How often do you change their cage, or what do you do to take? You have no business answering that for the client.
I will never have broached the subject of your rabbits,
your affiliation to rabbits,
or your horses, I mean, I will have asked you about standing, walking, lifting, carrying, concentrating, staying on task, stuff like that. I might ask you if you have kids.
Yeah.
I might ask you if if your husband works, but my focus is going to be laser focused on what you have going on with you and the symptoms because of what you have going on with you.
Yep.
And so I am ill-equipped to tell a judge about Fluffy your rabbit,
Yeah.
or Ernie your horse.
Yeah, because you don't want to misrepresent how long it takes them to change the rabbit's cage. Because how would you
I don't
know
know.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Roy says, have an appointment with a lawyer, judge, and myself tomorrow. Just listening to this podcast about topics has helped me get ready for the phone call at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah, that was more than a day ago, so he already had the hearing. Hopefully it was an approval, or it might still be pending to get the decision. But
Well, you came
Yeah.
up with the brilliant idea, and I have gotten so many positive comments from my clients, because we now send them a link to the hearing video that I made many moons ago. And I just tell them, it's about 40 minutes. Watch it, because it's going to walk you through the mechanics of the hearing. The phone is going to ring. This is who's going to be on the phone. These are the types of questions that you can expect. It's going to just walk you through everything. These are the questions that I'm definitely going to ask you. This is how long it lasts. This is kind of the order that they all go in, because they're all pretty much the same, whether you're in Maine or whether you're in California or you're in Florida or you're in Alaska. They pretty much all go the same.
yes.
But my clients, when I call them to prep them, because I still call them and prep them even if they've watched the video.
Sure.
But that's the first question out of my mouth. Hey, did you get the video link that we sent? Yeah. Did you watch it? Yeah. I symptoms. You did watch it. If you say that, I know that you watched it, because I say that a lot in the video. So, yeah. But it's helpful. I'd want to know something. I don't know if we've talked about this. My first hearing, I had been doing this, advertising and preparing clients, and just basically doing it. I'd spent a decade and a half working in disability for Social Security, but when I jumped ship, for about the first 6 months, I didn't go to a hearing. I mean, I was getting clients, and so after I amassed enough clients to where I had my first hearing, I knew nothing. I didn't know how the hearing goes. I didn't know what I was supposed to say. I didn't know when I was supposed to say. And, I think about that when I hear things like this, or when I prep my clients now. I'm like, it sure would be nice to know how it's going to go. Something as simple as telling them around the time of your hearing, the phone is going to ring, and I'll already be on the phone because they call me first to make sure that they have your number. That's the mechanics of the hearing, but it's nice to know that, and it's nice to know that for the most part with these phone hearings, they're running pretty close to on time. And then when we get in the hearing, this is how it's going to proceed. These are the questions you can expect. This is how it's going to proceed. This is how long it's going to last. And I wish that I had that kind of, knowledge when I first jumped ship and started practicing. So I see the value in that, in giving my clients, here's the heads up. You can watch the video, and the great thing, you can watch it as many times as you want to.
Yeah.
You're only going to get a phone call for me to prep you one time, and it'll, I'll basically tell you everything, and if I feel we're in good shape, I'm going to let you go. And then the next time we talk, we'll be in the hearing. But you can watch that video, 1 o'clock in the morning eating popcorn.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad if you do, but you can.
Yeah, and a whole nother element that we've added to the company with doing this podcast and with doing any kind of clips that we produce, if a claimant comes to us and they already have a lawyer or they already have a representative and they want our help, granted they're not trying to fire their rep, they just want our help. They already have a lawyer. We're not going to help them. We can't ethically help them. We're not going to mess with that case. Like, look, man, if you have a hearing coming up and you have a lawyer, you need to speak to your lawyer. We're not going to get on the phone with you, and because even if we could give you good advice, we don't want to interfere with the advice that your lawyer is giving you. But with the content that we're producing, just general information about how this is how the initial stage works. This is how a hearing works. This is what you can say to increase the odds of winning. All this content that we have online, even if you're not a client of ours, whether you're working with a different firm or you're working with no firm and you just want to go at it yourself, we're still happy to help you out just by
Sure.
sending you these videos and
Sure.
helping the general public instead of only our clients that we're representing.
Sure. And that's, I feel good about that. And you touched on something that's, you know, I look at it always from, okay, if I was the other rep
Yeah.
and that was my client was calling another firm, um,
What are you doing?
why are you calling them?
Yeah.
And that's why we don't take you, especially if you got a hearing scheduled. If they've walked with you, if the rep has walked with you this far, unless there's just something that's just downright egregious that they're horrible at, you need to stick with them, and always be upfront with them. Well, I expect to hear from you, every couple weeks, or, I expect you to know my medical record. I expect this. You can give them expectations. Reps work for you.
Yeah.
You don't work for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I tell my clients that all the time, especially if we have a big decision. Sometimes there are big decisions where we get what they call a partially favorable decision. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's favorable. The judge is it's usually a judge. The judge has approved you, but you said you became disabled in January of 24, and the judge says you became disabled in January 25. You're going to miss out on a year's worth of benefits. Your monthly benefit amount was $1,500. So we're talking about 18 grand you're going to miss out on. You want to appeal that case? Or do you want to just let bygones be bygones and just don't poke the bear anymore? And, a lot of people would be like, well, Carl, you make that decision. You're the rep. You've got that expertise. I do have that expertise. I am the rep, but that's their decision.
Yeah.
They can just stick with what they have and know that the case has been approved, because there's risk if you appeal any decision. You appeal, okay, well, I just want to appeal that they didn't go back that extra year. I don't want to appeal that I'm disabled. I agree with them on that. That don't work that way.
Right.
If you appeal a case, you're appealing everything, and the judge can, and some have, reversed a partially favorable to an outright denial. I think a judge that does that, has a serious crusading problem. But then again, I'm not a judge. But it happens. It's happened to me.
That's tough.
And you basically have to tell your client, well, that approval we got, a year and a half ago that we appealed has come down now, and it's an outright denial.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to now our appeals are really kind of do or die. And it's just a mess. But the decision was theirs. I'll never make that decision.
Yeah.
I will tell them, I work for you, you don't work for me, and you make that decision.
Right. The next comment is pretty much on the same topic of representation. Responding to a video we did about how good representatives will check in with you periodically. This viewer just says, I wish mine would check in even though there's no update. Watching your video makes me wish I saw them first. Which, we get that a lot, and you don't even really have to answer that because it's what we're talking about here.
It's exactly what we just
Same
said.
thing, yeah.
if you have expectations, call your rep and tell them, you can drop our name if you want to, but you could say, hey, I saw a video on TikTok or on Instagram, and this one firm, they call people every, 30, 45 days, even if they have no news. Could you start doing that? There's nothing wrong with giving them that.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my expectation. If I'm a disability claimant, I wouldn't feel bad about doing that.
Right. Okay. Next comment is good news. The viewer says, watched you guys before my approval at SSA office. You gave me great advice, and I thank you for that. So now I come by occasionally to show support and comment and give a like on your videos.
Fantastic.
And they're not lying, because I see them like and comment
Those
on
are-
our videos all the time.
Those are my favorite posts. I love that.
Yeah, it gives us a little bit of motivation that these are actually working.
Yeah, people are seeing them. Yeah.
Helping people. Yeah. Cool. Okay, another one. This is similar to the last question we did on part 1 of this, kind of answering the comment section.
Right.
Person says, I have surgery in my back, L3 burst, fusion surgery, and L2, L5, 2 surgeries in my feet, fusion surgery in my heel. I'm 52 years old. I was denied 2 times. Very, I don't want to say pessimistic, but very like, what the heck? Why would they? I have all this going on. I'm 52.
Right.
I'm disabled. They denied me. And it's another one of those where it's like, I wish it surprised us. I wish we say that never happens, but it doesn't at all.
I see it all the time.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
got to file the appeals, and you got to take it to the hearing level. And then if the judge makes a horrible decision, you got to take it to the appeals
that's
council. Just
right.
keep going.
That's right. If they tell you no, you just keep on going. The thing is 50 is the magic age, and we've talked about this in other videos. If you are 49 and younger, so basically 18, the date that Social Security considers you an adult,
Yeah.
up to 49, you literally have to prove to Social Security that you can't do any type of work in the national economy. And I mean any type of work, like a telemarketer, sit down in air conditioning all day long. You don't have to do really much thinking at all. You're reading from a script. You're not lifting or carrying anything. In fact, you're not even lifting a phone because you got a headset clipped on, and your job is to push a button when the call comes in. Hi, my name's Carl. Thanks for calling about the widget. The widget is the best product on earth. It's better than sliced bread. It can do this and it can do that and da 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 da. Would you like to buy a widget? Because I can transfer you to a salesman if that's the case. Oh no, okay. Well, you're not interested, but thank you for calling anyway, and have a great day. That's your job. Or are you interested in hearing more from a salesman? Okay, I'll transfer you to a salesman. That's your job. I have to prove you can't do that if you're 49 and younger. However, when you hit 50, it becomes easier because I don't have to prove that you can't do anything. I only have to prove that you're limited to a sit-down type job and you can't do the past work that you did. So for this 52-year-old, if you had a sedentary job, which is what I do, it's a desk job.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a sedentary job and you're 52, it's going to be real hard to win that disability case because you could probably do your past work in the eyes of Social Security.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everything changes. And when you hit 55, now I only have to prove that you're limited to light work unless you've done light work or sedentary work, like a cashier or a desk job. And then it gets even easier when you hit 60. Every 5 years, it gets easier. Those are called the grids. But it's, the remedy is always going to be the same. And we've said it several times already, which is, that's right, keep going. Don't let no be no. Make sure that to you, no just means you haven't convinced them yet.
Yeah. Another thing that I see a lot, I talk to a lot of clients that they say they've been denied several times, but they haven't filed appeals. I do want to say that as well. If you've been denied, you should really file the appeal. And then if you're denied a second time, file the next appeal. If you wait to file, just, you get denied, you don't appeal, then you file a new claim. You can do it that way. A lot of people do it that way. We can still win the case. But one, you could be missing out on back pay. Your past due benefits could be less. And then also you're not utilizing the entire process. The entire process is supposed to be, it gets to the hearing level. And that's a big deal. You get to verbally testify that you're unable to work.
Exactly. It's sequential.
Uh-huh.
And if you apply and you get denied and then you just let it ride, for a few months, the deadline is almost always 60 days in Social Security. So if you don't appeal that within the 60 days of your denial, well, guess what? You start all over.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're filing an appeal. You're just doing it, 6 months after you were denied, because you can't do that. You have to file it within that time frame, and that is, like you said, that's the process, and it's a sequential thing. So there are people, and you see their case filed, and they filed in this year, and then they filed, a couple times in the next year, but they're always initial filings. There's never a reconsideration, which is your first appeal. There's never a request for a hearing, which is your second appeal. They didn't follow the sequential part of it. They just kind of, okay, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to appeal it. I'll just file again later. Horrible decision. Like you said, you're going to miss out on. May miss. It's not that you may miss out on money. You're going to miss out on money by doing that. It's meant to be sequential. If you disagree with Social Security, file the appeal. They're not horrible. With a representative, we file the appeal. It's
and we don't blink. When you get denied, we don't blink. We just file the appeal. It's
right.
like,
It is.
Unfortunately, we were kind of expecting that just because the way that the system works. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the last Last comment I have on here. I guess we'll end it there.
Groovy.
Cool. If you have a question about your disability case, drop it in the comment section below, and we will do our best to answer it in the next episode.